Hello and welcome to the Discover Dayton podcast, the show that's all about the Gem City's past, present, and future. My name is Arch Grieve and I'm your host, and today I'm excited to talk to Link Schreiber, who's a teacher, but in his spare time doubles as the slam master of the Dayton Poetry Slam, which meets every first and third Sundays at the Yellow Cab Tavern. It's an awesome thing to have in our community, so join me as I talk with him about how it started, what all they do, and when the next show will be. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the show, and thanks so much for coming on and talking with me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I invited you on to talk, of course, about the Dayton Poetry Slam, but before we get to that, could you maybe talk a little bit about yourself first and give us a little bit of background on you?
Oh, sure. So I'm Link Schreiber. Everyone just calls me Link. I was raised in Springfield, born at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I've lived in the Dayton area. Well, I moved here in 2004, I think. 2004 sounds right. So I've been here for a while. And 2003, I took over running the Dayton Poetry Slam. I had a good friend, Lane Martin, that we had been reading at an open mic in Springfield for a while. And he kept telling me about this poetry slam, kept telling me about the Dayton Poetry Slam. You got to come out, man. This is such a fantastic time. You got to come out. Energy unlike you've ever seen. And I actually went to one. The Dayton Slam was doing Lit Fest at University of Dayton. So I went over there to watch that show and was just blown away. And I immediately started attending the show, and 6 months after attending, I started running it because the guy in charge at the time, Bill Abbott, was moving back to Tennessee. And so the rest of the people in the organization voted on me to take it over.
Oh, wow.
And I've literally been here ever since. I've tried to give it up. I tried to give it up, but, to quote Al Pacino, every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. But in all honesty, I've had so much fun over the years. And I've been doing this many, many years. It's opened many doors for me. It got me back into college, into grad school for an English degree. And so Slam kind of led me into teaching, which is, what I do now. And, kind of bridging that gap between the academic poets and everybody else.
Sure. Well, that's so cool. I didn't realize that you were a teacher also. So very cool. Well, so as you mentioned, you're one of the organizers, I guess is the right word, perhaps.
My actual title is Slam Master.
Oh, Slam Master. I apologize then. That sounds much cooler.
Okay. Yes, it does. It sounds way more interesting than it is, other than, the guy that runs and organizes the slam. But I have, it's a trifecta of us, three of us that run this show, and it's myself and Jonathan Gallion and Quiet Storm. We the three of us, it takes three of us. I did this show for so long by myself, and that was horrible, trying to maintain all this and try to keep things together on me onesies. It was not fun at all.
Sure. No, I can imagine. Well, before we go any further, for folks who might not be familiar with poetry slams as an art form, I guess, could you tell them a little bit about what it is and maybe how it even came to Dayton in the first place before you got involved?
Oh, yeah. Well, Dayton, the actual poetry slam started in the mid 1980s in Chicago. And was a construction worker that was just tired. He would write poetry while he was working, and he was just tired that he couldn't read anywhere. So they just started their own open mic, and they just started getting for regular people, quote unquote, regular people. But where it that's where it started, and it just kind of expanded to a worldwide phenomenon. And Bill Abbott, one of the founders of the Dayton Slam, him along with Drew Perfilio, would run open mics here. Bill from Chattanooga, Tennessee, was running open mics there and was one of the founders of their Southern Fried Regional down in Cincinnati, or not Cincinnati, down in the South. It's a rotating regional, kind of bounces all around. And when he moved up here to Dayton, he wanted that here. So took over. There already was something called the Dayton Slam, and it was just an open mic running in a coffee shop, very infrequently. And the person, and I'm sorry, I don't remember their name, gave up the name over to Bill. And so he took it over to Canal Street Tavern, which is where he hooked up with Drew, because Drew was working at Canal Street at the time and was really the one influential into getting us in there as a venue. And we were there from when the show started in 99 until I took the show out in 2004, because we just had some creative differences with the owner. And so we just moved around to wherever we could. We went to the Dublin pub for a while. We were at Therapy Cafe a couple of times. We've been at Art Street at UD. We were at the Oregon Express for many years. We were at Blind Bob's for a while. A place called Art Street, which is no longer there anymore, which is, I think, now a hip hop club called The Vault, if I remember right. Back to when Canal Street turned into Canal Public House. We were there for a minute, and then when they shut down for various reasons, we went over to Yellow Cab with 5 hours notice. We moved the show over, and just the power of social media. I was such a social media naysayer on the power of advertisement of social media until we had to move the slam in 5 hours. It was insane. And we just went to social media, and it spread like wildfire. We put signs up at Canal Public House, hey, we're over here at Yellow Cab. And that's what ended up happening. We went over there, and we've been there now. We just celebrated our 6-year anniversary with them.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So what it is, it's a mock competition. Usually, sometimes there, things get real, but usually it's just a laid back mock competition. The original prize was $10 or a pack of Twinkies.
Nice.
I've been to slams where the prize is whatever happens to be in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 3 minutes and 10 seconds to do a poem of your own creation. No music, no props, no costumes, anything along those lines. It's just you, the audience, 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And then you are judged 0 to 10 Olympic style. So 0 to 10, 1 decimal point, drop the high and the low, by hopefully 5 people. If the audience is low, I will go 3 judges. And then what we do is we call it cutthroat night, where your score is your score. You don't lose the high point. You don't lose the low point. That's just your score. And then that's it. I mean, the person with the highest score at the end of the night wins. It's very imagery driven poetry. It's very, if trying to connect with that audience, and that really, when it gets down to it, that's what slam really is. It's an art form to much in the style of the Greek traditionalists, of just connecting with your audience as much and as effectively as you can in a short amount of time, because, we all got lives.
Sure. Well, no, thank you for that explanation. That's great. Well, as you mentioned too, you're not alone in, putting this all together. So I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about Jonathan and Quiet Storm as well.
Well, Jonathan comes from actually a very similar background as myself. We both worked in radio and worked in media here and there, although we don't now. It's kind of funny. A lot of people say that. Well, I used to work in media. I don't anymore. And he just kind of fell in. He just started, some friends of his were attending the shows, and he just really kind of, again, fell in love with the art form, and fell in love with the camaraderie. We don't have audience, we have family. We call them all Slam family, just because we all connect a lot more effectively, and we all hang out a lot better. So Jonathan really loved that idea, and then just stuck around there. Even though the friends that originally brought him to the slam no longer come. And Quiet Storm kind of something very similar. Quiet Storm was looking for a home for poetry and looking for something. Had friends that brought her in, and it was just kind of the very same way. Just fell in love with the show and what the idea of what the show could be. And what we always maintain the show as is, the three of us, none of us get paid for doing this show. None of us draw a paycheck. None of us, take money from the till. It's always just, we take that money and filter it back into advertisement or back into features, just like the feature we had a couple of nights ago. So that was something that was very important to Quiet Storm, and that we work on the, bringing in as many diverse features and poets as we can. And absolutely has happened, very much so because of Quiet Storm. Quite a diverse, eclectic audience we have and group of poets.
Very cool. Well, so I got to a slam recently, and I've been to some in the past, but at this one there was an open mic at the beginning and end of the show, and then Letitia Ellis performed some of her work as the feature act, and actually I just had her on the show too, which was awesome. But
wonderful.
Is that how the shows typically go that you all have?
Yeah,
that are open mics, or can you explain what people should expect to see when they go?
We do 2 shows a month. The first show of the month is usually a feature. When we have them, we're starting to do them less and less. Simply because, some of the features coming in, they want quite a bit of money.
Sure.
So, just the nature of the game right now. And so when we have features, that's how we do it. We do a first half of the open mic, we do the feature, we take a break, then we do the second half. That's what happened this past Sunday with Coco Flo. Came in, she had performed for us for some time and then moved away, and has become quite successful in the poetry scene throughout North Carolina. And then we got a chance to have her come in as a feature, and it was really nice. But yeah, you kind of split them up along those lines. And then the second show of the month, we try to do the poetry slam if we've got enough people that are interested in jumping in. Usually when we tell them, hey, $50 to the winner, more people want to jump in at that point.
Sure, yeah.
And then those will do slightly different, where the first half of the show is just open mic, one poem, because we want to get to the slam, and then we take a quick break. I get judges, and then we go into the poetry slam itself. Usually the slam is 3 rounds. It just depends on how many people we have. We try to make it 3 rounds, so 3 minutes and 10 seconds each poem. There you go. Do the math. And so that's usually the flow we try to do. Sometimes we change it up with different styles, different fun little, because you can't do the same show every time. So you want to have a little bit of fun with it, change up the type of slam. Sometimes we've done golf slams where you purposely try to get the lowest score you possibly can.
Cool.
Other people call that the bad poetry slam.
Uh-huh.
You just bring in horrible poems and try to get the lowest score you possibly can. One thing we've done song lyrics, where you come in and perform song lyrics. One of my personal favorites we have not done in so long, and we're going to do this summer, is sock puppets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, to perform your poem, you do it through a sock puppet.
I like it.
So Jonathan has built up a stage that he's going to bring, and then you just hide behind the stage and pull out your sock puppet.
Very cool. Well, so one thing that I found coincidental, maybe, I don't know, is that I follow a guy on TikTok who's a book talk creator, and he did a video saying that his favorite author is Columbus author Hanif Abdaal. So I visited Columbus recently. I went to the book loft, got one of his books. I'm reading it right now, but then I was looking at your website to get ready for the show and saw that I missed him coming to Dayton way back in 2019. So I'm really sad now, but I haven't read.
He's actually coming back in the area. He'll be back in August, I think, August or September at Central State University.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, he'll be performing again. But yeah, we've been lucky enough to get Hanif a couple of times. And yeah, just such an amazing writer, such an amazing force. And it's just so wonderful when you get to hear him. I love him on stage, and he he's one of those great people that you need to see live if you can. Oftentimes he'll do story time kind of deals where he'll just bring everybody up on the stage and you just sit down, crisscross applesauce, and he just sits down and he just chill. Hey, how you doing? Starts reading a couple more poems like that.
That's awesome. I'm glad you told me about his Central State visit. I'm going to have to go and check it out there. So thank you. I'm curious, have you had any other well-known poets perform their work at the Poetry Slam before?
Well, over the years, yeah. We've had quite a few. Taylor Molly, Buddy Wakefield. We've had a lot over the years. It's kind of hard to just narrow down different poets over 22 years. Just quite a few really great high level. But in all honesty, I think my personal favorites have always been, kind of like the smaller level folks that are just really trying to start out, Rachel McKibbins, before she exploded, on the poetry scene, being able to bring back Coco Flow was really, really nice. Rachel Wiley, I'm very happy to say I was there when Rachel Wiley kind of first started in slam, and now multi-time published author. So it's just really nice to see, the slam kids grow up and do some of these things on their own.
Oh, that's awesome. So in addition to open mic events, you also do writing workshops, feature performances, and I know the slam competitions too. So can you talk about some of the different types of events and whether you have any of those things coming up in the near future?
Usually that's just kind of like when someone wants us to do something like that. Now, we did a few of those during the pandemic. We did a lot of writing prompts. We were on Discord for some time during the pandemic, and that turned into a lot more writing workshops than anything. And just kind of, people are like, I need to talk to someone.
Sure.
So, can we please talk? Can we please, run over this poem? Can we run over that? We've always talked about wanting to do more. There's always been time. So a time constraint. It's been funny. They've actually had us, some different folks have had us all around, the youth YMCA or the YMCA youth leadership groups. I just did a lecture on, running a poetry slam and kind of what goes into that idea of running a nonprofit type deal. Or just an open mic, that's kind of, because a lot of people think that, it's just an open mic. Yeah, you just set up a microphone and go. Oh God, no, there are so many things that go into doing that, to running a poetry show. You would think it'd be nothing. For example, I came in on Sunday and had to redo the entire stage, because the sound person, just for whatever reason hadn't cleaned up the stage. Probably actually didn't realize that we were on the next night. So, I show up at 6:30 and all of a sudden, oh man, I got to get all these mic cables wrapped up. And thank God I used to work in sound, so I know how to wrap a mic cable.
Sure.
Wrapping mic cables up and setting other microphones away so no one trips as they're coming up and down stage. And I've had to learn how to wire sound, and I've had to learn how to run live sound. I mean, thank God for my radio background. I knew how to do that, and then just venue, talking with venue owners and trying to figure out, okay, what do you need? What do you want from us? And it was funny when we went, every time we've been asked to leave a venue, it's never because of the poets. It's never because, we did something horrible or, we destroyed equipment or things along those lines. It's always because of a business aspect. Either we're not selling enough drinks or we're not selling enough food, things along those lines. And somebody comes around like, oh, well, we're going to make more money on this show. Sorry, Link. And it's business. It's okay. It happens. But, and people don't think of that side aspect. We're going to be upping, starting with, by the time this episode comes out, our door charge will be going from $2 to $3. And people are like, oh, it's just $1. I'm like, well, you got to keep that in mind. The increased costs of getting flyers printed, even,
Sure.
that single dollar goes quite a long way. And even trying to figure out how to take money, if, and again, we just take money just to pay features, pay website fees, pay, advertising, things along those lines. Even how to take that. When I first started, it was just, change, just, single bills, things along those lines. And then people went to, oh, do you take PayPal? Do you take Cash App, Venmo? Do you take cards? So we, having to figure out the logistics of taking all of those and then trying to set that point, because like I said, we're trying to set a point where anybody feels that they can come. We don't want to price anybody out of coming to poetry. We don't want to price anybody out. We get a lot of teenagers now, over the last, I'd say, since starting the show back up, we've had quite an influx of under 21 people. And I don't want to price them out if I can help it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I know that you, speaking of, maintaining a website, I know you have a website. You also have Facebook and YouTube. I don't know if there's anything else, but what can people find in those places, and where can they find them?
Sure. The best way to find information on us is the Facebook page, Dayton Poetry Slam on Facebook. There is the website, DaytonPoetrySlam.com, which I do not update nearly as often as I should. I will be first to admit that.
Sure.
We've got on probably our highest social media presence is on Instagram, Dayton Poetry Slam on Instagram, where we have quite a few followers and we are quite active, mainly because that's what you have to do to keep ahead of the algorithm, is to be as active as you possibly can be. And then the YouTube page has really kind of exploded. And that was the next iteration of what I wanted to do, was really kind of expand our YouTube presence. And so we've been for the last couple years, since since returning to live shows, we've been trying to stream the show live. We've been trying to do that for the folks that can't make it because of the pandemic. And apparently live streaming a 2-hour poetry show doesn't work at all, at least not on YouTube.
Right.
Because it takes up so much bandwidth and just, it never really worked well. But over the last few months, we've been recording them. And then uploading them. So that's my Monday. My Monday after the show is I take the audio that I recorded off the soundboard and I process that. And then I take all the audio or the video pieces and kind of put that all together with some splash pages and some attempt at copyright and go from there.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been an adventure. Like, I haven't used these editing skills since my undergrad days of college, but it's kind of fun. And then I get to relive the shows, and we've had quite a few people getting on those YouTube pages and watching, the 2 chunks, or when it's a feature, 3 chunks, sitting down for an hour with us. And it's wonderful for those folks that have moved away. They get a chance to see some of the friends that are still here, or expanding into other areas where we just wouldn't hit before. I had 5 people come to the show last Sunday. The last show we did on May 1st, that they showed up because of the YouTube page.
Oh, wow. That's great. Very cool. And you guys don't have a TikTok yet, right?
No. Well, I mean, it just gets down to who would do it.
Right.
It's one of those tricky things, like, okay, who's going to do this aspect? And Jonathan Bree and I have a pretty good balance broken down and everything. I handle, kind of website stuff and the show logistics and the money. And Jonathan handles social media, venue relations, things along those lines, although we all 3 do venue relations. And then Quiet Storm is our PR person. She does all of our bookings, all of our feature stuff, and then a lot of our flyers are designed by Quiet Storm.
Well, speaking of upcoming shows, every other Sunday, correct? I forget which ones.
Well, the first and third.
First and third, okay.
Yeah, because every now and again there's one of those weird months that have 5 weeks.
Right. And that's at the Yellow Cab now every time?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, every time is at the Yellow Cab. I mean, on occasions we'll have little specialty shows. Some people will bring us in. Sierra Leone just brought us we were performing at the arcade, which was amazing. It was a really great space to come into, and we had a very good time, kind of a blast going in there and performing there. Sinclair on occasions would bring us in. We were with UD with Litfest for 15 some odd years while they were still doing Litfest. I mean, that because they just ended the series before the pandemic, before the pandemic.
Gotcha. Awesome. So before you go, I wonder if you would be willing to do a reading for us.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. Thank you.
If you were to look at the speck, the infinitesimal space between my forefinger and thumb, that's a moment in time. Now, more classes, workshops, YouTube videos, and books than I care to admit personally witnessing tells me that I'm supposed to breathe life into that speck. I'm supposed to care and nurture it. And I'm supposed to clothe it in metaphors, feed it simile, and caress it with imagery. As a writer, we're meant to allow this moment to mature and stand on its own for all time, for whatever audience happens to be there to witness. Wait too long, and the speck slips through the tiny gap. Of course, you could try to recreate that speck, but is it as genuine? Our memories are fickle, and we tend to embellish too much. We're writers, after all. We tend to grab those moments and freeze them, place them between two glass slides and insert it into our microscopes. We place it between two panes and lock it there with rage, sadness, love, longing, happiness, disgust, and hope. We do everything we can to hold that moment right there as long as whatever God we believe in permits us to. And we marvel and we covet and we reminisce and we envy and we love and we beg, and on occasions we learn. Often that last one doesn't come quick enough. But there's a difference in admiring that speck of time and becoming blinded by it, spending too much time with what scholars, psychiatrists, and songwriters have called living in that moment. If you're too obsessed with this moment and transforming it into something lasting, you'll miss this speck in my other hand. And then you're stuck between the safety of this moment and the uncertainty of the next one. After all, new moments are vivid, mysterious, easy to remember, but that's not the same moment. That speck is shaped differently and feels rough on the skin of your finger. Wild specks cannot be held, only contemplated and reflected upon. So the next time you feel the passage of time, reach out and pinch just a little bit off. Admire it, learn from it, pray for it, record it, and then open your eyes.
That's me snapping. If you could.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much. That was great. I love that. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it. And thank you to you and Jonathan and Quiet Storm as well for doing this for Dayton for so long. It's really awesome thing that we have in our community. And I know a lot of people appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Oh, it is our pleasure. It's always been my goal is to just give somebody that microphone, just give somebody the chance that normally wouldn't get that chance. And it's been our pleasure to do this for so long.
We appreciate it. Thank you again. All right. That was my interview with Link Schreiber, the slam master for the Dayton Poetry Slam. I really appreciate him coming on and not only talking about the Dayton Slam, but also sharing some of his own work. Please be sure to visit the show notes on my website at www.discoverdaytonpodcast.com to find links to all of their socials. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a review and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for listening, and stay funky, Dayton.